Councilman Kirby Metoxen offer to do the prayer this morning.
Thank you, Chairman. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Uncle Kirby. All right, with that, looking to adopt the agenda. I didn't notice any additions or a few handouts for different items, but I guess a motion to adopt the agenda by Larry.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Item 5C on your agenda for resolutions. The title is changed.
Mr. Chair.
Jameson?
Yes, thank you, Bonnie. It is no longer the protecting our neighborhood, our children in our neighborhoods and our children. It is now the Safe Neighborhoods Law. Emergency legislation.
All right, motioner Larry, are you fine with that change to the agenda titling? Seconder is Jameson. Any other discussion on the adoption of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And then just for the record, we have Councilwoman Jennifer Webster, Councilman Jameson Wilson, Secretary Lisa Liggins, myself, Treasurer Larry Barton, Councilman Jonas Hill, and Councilman Kirby Metoxen present. At this point, Councilman Marlon Skinador is unexcused. All right, with that, moving on to minutes. Approve the February 11th and 13th regular business committee meeting minutes. Motion by Jenny.
Support.
Supported by Kirby. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next section is resolutions. Adopt resolution entitled Dissolution of the Oneida Economic Development, Diversification, and Community Development Fund, and direct dividends and other corporate returns to be placed in the CIP set aside.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, second by Larry. Further discussion? Do you have discussion on this one, Nancy? All right, Nancy, you got 5 minutes. Thank you. Oh, turn your mic on. Push the stem down. The green light has to come on for it to work. No, this.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, my question, first of all, thank you for doing this. You know, I brought it up and I felt like it was a dangerous little slush fund. And some good things happened out of it. And, you know, we have to be thankful for that. My question is this a separate committee? Like, can people go to this committee for this pot of money? No?
Lisa?
The resolution today dissolves that EdSed
Yes.
fund, and because that fund is funded by dividends from our corporate boards.
Yes.
And instead now, those funds are going to be put into the CIP set aside
Okay.
to support CIP projects moving forward.
Okay,
So there's no committee or no decision-making, it's the CIP set aside. So when a CIP project comes up and a question is, do we have funding for it? This money will help support those projects.
Okay, there was a time where I attended, I can't remember what the name of it was, many meetings regarding planning for CIP projects and also planning projects, I guess, using these funds. And so my question is, you know, I don't know what's on that CIP list. I do know that enrollments is on there, and I think the Veterans Building. So my question is if I was interested in a CIP project or I wanted an update or I wanted to attend, is that a separate committee, a separate meeting? How does that all work for in the future, just in case I wanna, what if I come up with a CIP project? How would I go about all of that?
Okay, Nancy, I think you're referring to what, there used to be a community development planning committee.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of these questions would be had for the development of those specific projects. That is no longer in place. So now it's just the CIP process under Mark's area. I know they're going through a review right now to update that process, but essentially, CIP approvals come to this table, the BC
Okay.
meeting.
That's the name I was looking for, Community Development Plan. You guys got so many, names for little committees, so that's gone. And so a CIP project, then what would be the process, I guess I'm looking for? I don't have one. Maybe I will have to end of the day, but you don't know. So I would need to go where in order to do that? To you guys on an agenda? Would that be correct, or do I need to go to Mark? I mean, I'm just looking for the process, because everything's changing. It's gonna get new again. And so I'm just looking for how that will all work. And then my last comment, before I run out of time, is, of course, the transparency about all of this. And, how it will be reported out that the corporations, give money to this fund. And then who's gonna report it? How are they gonna report it? And also, the projects that are using this money. And that's, just some more of that transparency so that me and everybody else knows where our money's going. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. I guess to answer your last question first, Relinda generally, or go ahead, Relinda.
Shigoli, thank you for the question, Nancy. With the resolution, and I just want to clarify that the resolution that the Business Committee is adopting is allocating 100% of the returns to the CIP set aside. So with the resolution, as it's being presented in consideration, what would happen is we would show the return from corporations as a revenue source in our budget, and then we would have a offsetting allocation to the CIP set aside so that the members would know what amount we are estimating the returns to be and the amount that is going into the CIP set aside. On a monthly basis, we report out the balances in the CIP set aside, and we provide that information to the members at the semi-annual and annual meetings.
All right, thank you, Relinda. Joanne?
Thank you. This resolution doesn't create any new CIP process. Those are large, capital-intense projects such as building or remodeling buildings. That process will continue as it was set out. There hasn't been any changes to it. What this resolution does is recognize that the General Tribal Council directed that CIP processes will be funded by incremental savings. And this is one method of developing that CIP set aside in the nation's finances to begin developing that incremental savings activity. Thank you.
And thank you also, I guess, your larger question about how you would necessarily start the process. The CIP process is primarily for internal departments to utilize for expansion and growth. Just my general read of it is then if a tribal member wants to bring forward a proposal for a new building, essentially, I guess, suggest that I would have to go through like the petition process. I don't know, Relinda, if there's another specific way a community member could start a CIP?
Thank you. Yes. Obviously, we would like to have a process other than a petition to bring forward a CIP project. The community budget input meetings at the start of the budget process, which there's one on March 9th, I believe. and one on the 16th at Milwaukee. Those would be the appropriate places for a member to provide feedback for projects that they would like to consider including in future budget years. Melissa is currently working on how to redraft those input sessions to help them be productive for both the members and the management on gathering community input on what should be included in the budget.
Thank you, Relinda. I did forget about those meetings. Mark?
I'd also like to mention that if there is a CIP project proposed, that would need to be managed by some entity in the organization. So I'd encourage meeting with that potential entity that may be managing that project. They may already have something in the pipeline that they are considering or working on, and they should be included in conversations related to projects that they will need to manage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jameson?
I stepped away, I may have missed it, but yeah, Mark pretty much covered your question, I think, Nancy. I'm just reading the pre-design phase from the capital improvement process. The client applicant for a capital improvement shall submit to the tribal engineer Form CIP-1 capital improvement project request and Form CIP-1A. Space needs summary. The client applicant is advised to contact the director of planning for the assignment of a project planner for aid in the development of these documents. So a more technical way of explaining or expressing exactly what Mark just said.
Yeah, we're at about 8 minutes. Nancy's additional 3 minutes. So Jenny, seconded by Jonas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. All right, 3 minutes.
My recall and my memory isn't what it used to be. I used to be right on the dollar or $20 off. So I do know that one time there was a dollar amount that was considered like a CIP, and I don't know if it was 50,000 or 250,000. I can't remember, but it moved it to a category. So, for instance, if there's a building and the roof is leaking, can this money be accessed as an emergency and supersede everybody else? I'm concerned about those kind of things because that happens around here. A lot of our buildings are old. We bought old buildings. And if something happens, where will people get that money? Is there a fund where programs and entities can go to in an emergency situation, or could they come here, and is there a dollar amount considered under the capital improvement projects such as 50,000, 100,000? I do know at one time there were certain criteria. So I guess, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Mark?
Similar response. I would work with management over the whoever is over that building. We have various buildings that are managed by either land management, DPW 1822. So depending on the entity that is managing that facility, the request for repair should go through whatever process that building has. Thank you.
Thank you. Relinda?
Yonko, I wanted to correct that the CIATS meeting is on Tuesday, March 3rd. I apologize, I didn't have my calendar up. Also, I wanted to provide some information on the CIP versus CapEx definition. The dollar amount that you're thinking of, Nancy, is a capital expenditure, and the capital expenditure is often for furniture, equipment, vehicles. It is not for a building. The dollar amount is $5,000. At $5,000, that is the capitalization threshold for an individual item. So those are not included in the operational budget. They are in the capital expenditure budget. A CIP is a project, or a capital improvement project is a project that involves multiple systems in a building. The budget and finances law has been updated to provide clearer definitions of what a capital expenditure is versus a capital improvement project. In regards to repairs for buildings, as they come up as an emergency, that process was created maybe 10 years ago. We have the building maintenance set aside allocation in every fiscal year budget. That is a fund of money that carries over from year to year. It is available to the Department of Public Works and Engineering to address repairs and maintenance that are needed in current buildings. And should there be a roof leak that they did not anticipate, they have the ability to prioritize use of the funding.
All right, thank you, Belinda. All right, any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, there's a motion by Lisa, seconded by Larry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. All right, next item is B, adopt resolution titled Fiscal Year 27 Budget Considerations and Calendar.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. Any other discussion? Did you have discussion on this, Nancy?
Yes, I do. I'm
All
trying
right.
to find the page. I dropped my packet on the way coming in here, but
What,
I
5
do
minutes?
have it. And I'm referring to page 31, and it has the FY 2027 budget resolution. And further down on the page, it talks about sustainability, and thank you for the $100 contribution to the GWA for the people 18 and over. Where I am concerned is under number 1, the wage plan. And it says here that the budget amount for the FY 2027 incentive plan is to be determined by HRD. And I commented on this subject many times in the past. It is subjective. It's not fair. There are employees who are well-deserving who will be left out. I'm not sure if every single department has the same evaluation process, but I look at this as not being fair. I do know that in the past, there were people who work every day and do a good job who were not rewarded, and people who were less deserving and worked from home and were rewarded. And so I'm concerned about even level playing field for everyone. And either everybody gets or nobody gets is one of my mottos. It's not fair, and it creates animosity and lowers the morale for employees that do a good job and show up every day. So I can't give names and departments and things that happen, but I'm well aware of what goes on around here with employees, including my own family. On the page 32, it says under general budget guidance, there will be a trade back for cash up to 80 hours. And I'm also concerned about that because of, and I'll just say it, the misuse of people coming and going and not using their time and building it up and using it. I say it's like a second little GWA payment, and how unfortunate that happens. And people should be taking their time off so that they can come back here and be productive and not be so crabby. And so I'm concerned about some of these areas in the sustainability. I did highlight some of this. Very concerned about it. I do appreciate the budget meetings coming first instead of coming last. We're always last, and then the budget's already all wrapped up, and the things that the people say really don't make too much of a difference. I'm concerned because these things, when we say that we're having a hard time balancing the budget but then you're offering, you know, these kind of things, a winter gift employee incentive of $300 per employee. And I do realize that we want to create incentives to keep our employees here. You know, and I believe, you know, the hardest working employees we have are our gaming employees. They come in, they're ready. They smell good, they're handsome, they're on time, they do a good job, they're the money makers, to make sure that those guys are, you know, an incentive goes to them. And then how is it even when we have floors of people with empty offices? So those are my concerns about this budget and our employees. You know, there are some that do, you know, an exceptional job, and there's some who, you know, it is what it is.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Larry?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the input, Nancy. The wage plan reflects the inflationary environment we have now. Certainly, you said it, and we align and agree with the sustainability. That's our challenge, trying to meet all the obligations, have a healthy workforce that's fairly compensated. I certainly agree with you as to the incentive, but I have confidence that both human resources leadership and the CEO of Nation Services will have bona fide criteria for which there's meaningful distribution of those incentives, and their plan is forthcoming. And as to the workforce, we have to try to be fair, right, just, and acknowledge their effort to make a livelihood for each of their family members and themselves. So we aggregated these particular elements in the budget to acknowledge that respectfully. We hear you on trade back, but given the economic challenges many of our employees have, it's a means of which to meet household expenses. We've already accumulated or accrued for the liability, whether it's taken in time off or distributed with a trade back. There's no detrimental financial effect. It's more for means of which to acknowledge the economic constraints that households have right now in making their bills. The voice of the membership and the employees specifically favor trade back, but I hear you as to productivity and accountability. I will acknowledge that comment. And in close, acknowledge finance in putting together the budget recommendations with the community and employees' input. This certainly is not an abstract. We hear all the voices, try to incorporate that into the framework of the budget for fiscal year 27, notwithstanding we have finite resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Merlinda?
Thank you. The winter gift has been an initiative of the Oneida Nation, I believe, since 1993, as I was on the first winter gift team for distribution. So this is not a new initiative. What has changed is we provide it as a cash payment, a bonus on the employee's check, because that reduces the amount of planning time, the amount of manual resources for distribution of product. In the past, there have been concerns brought forward on the different initiatives that have been funded. So who can say, you know, there's something wrong with providing an additional cash payment to our employees. In regards to the incentive plan, including that to be determined, there have been numerous concerns brought forward because currently gaming is the entity that has an approved incentive plan, and it's a case of have versus have-nots. There are concerns that incentives are being included in the budget in less than, in current budgets in less than transparent ways. So providing an SOP and a process for every business unit to include employee incentives within their budget creates a level playing field for all employees. It also is intended to address those issues Nancy has brought forward, because the SOPs need to clearly identify what is going to be rewarded and how it's going to be rewarded. We have been having conversations about the incentive plan probably for about 18 months, and we have recognized that clear communication to the employees about what is going to be rewarded and how it's going to be rewarded is extremely important to keep employee morale high. In regards to the 80 hours trade back, the offering of trade back for cash is actually increases our financial sustainability, because we currently have over $9 million in unpaid PTO on the books. That is a liability. And we have 34 employees, according to the last report, we have 34 employees who are at the max of 280 hours. While, yes, it's encouraged for employees to take their time off and to rest from work, it also is important to provide those employees who are unable, who are close to the max and are unable to utilize their time to have an option to get something for that time, or they lose it. And in regards to the comment about the meetings for input finally being included at the front of the budget, though the community input meetings at the front of the budget have been in place at least for a decade. So that is not anything new. We always attempt to get the community's input at the front end of the budget so that we can have an understanding of what is important to the members. Unfortunately, oftentimes they are not well attended. So I really encourage anyone who is interested in providing input at the front of the budget, please attend those meetings. The mailers have gone out. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rolinda. Any other discussion? All right, we'll go to community member Kathy Metoxen. You got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sitting here listening to this discussion, I guess it sounds like we're pretty stable. But I think about, I watch the news a lot, and I notice that they're looking at passing a law about raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour. And what are your plans on being prepared for such a thing if it were to happen? Are you looking at that or thinking about it, or has it come up? It's all over the news. And that's what people want, you know, the waitresses, everything. It's very interesting. But it's good to hear that we're in such stable standing to be able to be doing all these nice things and everything, but we got empty buildings. You know, we got lots of, you know, I just asked the question yesterday at a meeting. I attend a lot of meetings, and I said jokingly, I had a conversation this past weekend, and I said, nobody shows up to work. They work out of the home and everything. They should take that Shenandoah, because I hear it's pretty empty, and I know I've been there. But put apartments in there. There's a housing issue here, you know, and because I asked, what are the numbers? We do surveys, we do all this assessment and everything, and we got wonderful workers and everything. You know, what are the numbers of the wasted energy on the electricity and the heat for all these empty buildings? There's a dozen units in Three Sisters. Somebody took me for a ride through there and showed me there's a dozen empty units, and I'm like, the lights are on in there, you know, and they gotta keep them heated and stuff like that, you know, and that's when I started thinking, that's how our buildings are. You know, I've come up here a few times and there's a lot of empty doors, nobody up here. Shoot, go to Little Bear and put a bunch of apartments in here and put up some housing for our people. You know, that's something to look at, whether it's for Shenandoah, whatever buildings are pretty much empty. And we got a lot of empty buildings around here. There's always somebody that's telling me about something. So it makes me curious, how are we gonna be ready for all of this stuff, you know? $20 an hour, I think, is a big jump for a raise. I don't know what the minimum wage is right now. I haven't worked since 2004. But thank you for listening.
All right, thank you for your comments and suggestions. Kathy, currently the minimum wage for Oneida is set at $15 an hour. That was done by a GTC resolution a couple of years ago, if not longer. Rolinda?
Thank you. I have been in communication with the CEO of Human Resources, Laura Lightnin-Warren. The current minimum wage of $15 per hour has been a topic of conversation, and we are currently working on a research to see what the minimum wage should be for Oneida Nation. So we're well aware of the impact that minimum wage has on our employees. In regards to the empty building at Shenandoah Complex, as Central Accounting is in that building, I would like to refute that rumor. The building is not empty. In fact, we are having to turn conference rooms into offices. The building is fully occupied. If there are empty spaces, it is due to turnover in positions, and I'm not sure why there's information being shared that the building is vacant, because that is actually contrary to the occupancy of the building. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rolinda. Yes, that was going to be my point as well, because I know Mark had submitted a report some time ago about the his numbers, I think, about people telecommuting, and they were very minimal, and I think so just kind of refuting those statements made at the table here by the community member that buildings are vacant, and then that a lot of people are telecommuting. Is from the last report I remember seeing, telecommuting was a very low number being utilized in the organization. Jameson?
Yeah, well, Mr. Chair, thank you for bringing up your concerns, Nancy and Kathy, primarily about, I think it's the conversation shifting from the guidance calendar for the budget development and now kind of into telecommuting. But I just wanted to share that from my perspective as an individual elected official, I think it's important that I'm here. So I'm always in the office, and that's just me. However, I am a strong proponent of telecommuting and telecommuting work. There are some benefits gaps that are not afforded to some of our employees, and so I'll use one of my employees as an example. She does fantastic work, and we're about to review some of that work here in the next agenda item. And she recently had a child, and our maternity leave policy doesn't afford that time off with their child. And from a matrilineal society that we traditionally come from, I wanted to be able to provide that time some way, somehow, from the abilities that I have to do so. And so I allowed her to telecommute. Well, she's had this, I guess probably the last 2 or 3 months, and she's been doing phenomenal work as usual. Hasn't skipped a beat while she's been telecommuting, and we hope to get her back in the office here soon. But that's going to be it's going to take a little bit of time and gradually get her back in here full time because we want her to be able to build that bond with her child. So bringing it back in, I think that with my understanding of like the working with the trust enrollments department and being updated on what's going on throughout the United States is from a workforce standpoint and and from an investment standpoint, the investment into stocks where there's commercial buildings, real estate, is on a steep downward trajectory because of a lot of businesses and their workforce are telecommuting for work. And so this isn't just an Oneida Nation thing or a tribal thing, it is nationwide. And it's not a systemic thing, it's just where the workforce is trending. And I think, and I also just want to bring up just, my thing is that I support telecommuting, and I think that that's not going to go away for the organization. We just have to ensure that the accountability measures are in place and that the production levels are where they need to be, and that may need to be tracked. And so I'm going to reference a GTC directive back from July 1st of 2024. Motion passed to direct the business committee to develop a system to hold exempt employees accountable for their time. The update there is the OBC has assigned the task to the executive HR director. The current executive HR director is, this is a little outdated, but so it's there. The nation will be, so last day of work, okay, that doesn't matter. But anyway, what the point is that directive from GTC has been made. It's a directive of an initiative of the executive HR director. So that is being worked on. It is an initiative of that area, so it is being addressed. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rolinda?
Thank you. I just wanted to announce that the community input session for budget in Oneida is Monday, March 9th, 5 p.m. in the Tuscarora room at the Oneida Hotel. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rolinda. And any other discussion? If not, there is a motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny, to adopt the resolution. Seeing no other discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item C, adopt resolution titled Emergency Adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law. Jameson?
Mr. Chair, Yawa. I will share the adoption memo information, and I'm going to share every detail because it is a very important law. And so please bear with me as I go through this information. The emergency adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law is being sought to address the serious threat to the public safety of vulnerable populations, including children, that sex offenders pose if regulatory measures are not in place that protect the community by reducing opportunity and temptation by prohibiting sex offenders from being present on or residing in specified areas designated against children, are nationally recognized designated places where vulnerable populations commonly congregate. Risks posed by sex offenders against children are nationally recognized in such landmark legislation as the 1994 Jacob Wetterling Crimes Against Children and Sexually Violent Offender Registration Act, 1996 Megan's Laws, and the 2006 Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act. And these risks are also recognized by legislation in every state in the United States of America, including Wisconsin. Additionally, more than 150 municipalities in Wisconsin have enacted a sex offender residency restriction ordinance, including many of the surrounding municipalities such as Alloway, Ashwaubenon, Bellevue, Green Bay, Howard, Seymour, and Suamico. At the February 5th, 2026 Oneida Business Committee work session, the Oneida Business Committee was made aware of the Oneida Law Office and Oneida Police Department that a senior probation and parole agent with the Wisconsin Department of Corrections Division of Community Corrections notified the Oneida Police Department of the pending release of a sex offender who has requested residence in a central location within the boundaries of the Oneida Reservation. This notification by the Wisconsin Department of Corrections brought to the forefront that the nation currently lacks any laws to regulate the presence and residency of sex offenders within the boundaries of the reservation. The purpose of the Safe Neighborhoods Law is not to impose a criminal penalty, but rather to serve the nation's compelling interest to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the reservation population by prohibiting convicted sex offenders from loitering or residing in specified areas around locations where vulnerable populations, including children, regularly congregate. The Safe Neighborhoods Law recognizes the right of sex offenders to re-enter the community. Therefore, through the Safe Neighborhoods Law, the nation balances its responsibilities to sex offenders with its responsibility to protect the surrounding community by promoting regulatory measures which provide protections for the community that do not wholly prohibit sex offenders from being part of this community. This is what the Safe Neighborhoods Law will do. Prohibit a sex offender from being present or entering into specified prohibited locations that are primarily focused on areas in which children are known to congregate, while also providing exceptions for when a sex offender may enter a prohibited area. Prohibit a sex offender from establishing a permanent residence or temporary residence within 2,500 feet of any prohibited location, while also providing exceptions for when a sex offender may have residence less than 2,500 feet of any prohibited location. Prohibits a person or entity from selling, leasing, subleasing, renting, conveying, or otherwise allowing a sex offender to stay in any place or structure or part thereof with knowledge that it will be used as a permanent residence or temporary residence by any sex offender that is prohibited from establishing residence under this law. Provide a process to allow sex offenders to petition for a waiver of the residence restriction to the Oneida Police Department, the Oneida Police Department Chief of Police, and then appeal a denial of a waiver to the Oneida Public Safety and Security Commission. Requires the Geographic Information System Department to develop and maintain an official map of the reservation showing prohibited locations and the resulting residency restrictions, distance that is made available on the nation's website, and provide for the enforcement of violations of this law and subsequent penalties that are available. The Oneida Business Committee can temporarily enact legislation when legislation is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, or general welfare of the reservation population, and the amendment of the legislation is required sooner than would be possible under the Legislative Procedures Act. A fiscal impact statement and public meeting are not required for emergency legislation. The emergency adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law is necessary for the immediate preservation of the safety and general welfare of the reservation population. Sex offenders are a serious threat to the public safety of vulnerable populations, including children, if regulatory measures are not in place that protect the community by reducing opportunity and temptation by prohibiting sex offenders from being present on or residing in specified areas designated as places where vulnerable populations commonly congregate. Additionally, observance of the requirements under the Legislative Procedures Act for the adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law would be contrary to public interest, and the process and requirements of the Legislative Procedures Act cannot be completed in time to allow the proposed Safe Neighborhoods Law to be adopted and implemented in time to best protect the community. The emergency adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law will take effect immediately upon adoption of the Oneida Business Committee. The Safe Neighborhoods Law will remain effective for 6 months, and the Legislative Procedures Act provides the possibility to extend the emergency adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law for an additional 6 months or until emergency amendment expires or is permanently adopted. And the requested action is to adopt the resolution titled Emergency Adoption of the Safe Neighborhoods Law. Anyway.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Jenny. Discussion from the committee. Jameson?
So, a comment for the record. The seriousness and urgency of this emergency legislation is paramount, and individuals who played a role in bringing the proposed Safe Neighborhood Law to fruition truly stepped up in a time of need. The Oneida Police Department informed the BC that the Wisconsin Department of Corrections notified them of the pending release of a sex offender who requested residence in central Oneida. As you are all learning, the nation currently lacks any laws to regulate the presence and residency of sex offenders within the reservation boundaries. The Business Committee took immediate action to direct the Legislative Operating Committee to develop emergency legislation to address the emerging issue and create a law that protects the health, safety, and welfare of the reservation population by prohibiting convicted sex offenders from loitering or residing in specified areas around locations where vulnerable populations, including children, often frequent. 20 calendar days later, we have the Safe Neighborhoods Law for consideration of emergency legislation. I want to express my deep appreciation and gratitude to the work group who collaborated on the development of this law, attorneys from the Oneida Law Office, Chief, Assistant Chief, and Lieutenant from the Oneida Police Department, Geographic Information System Technician from Planning, attorneys from the Legislative Reference Office, political appointees, and LOC members. Special thanks to Legislative Reference Office Senior Staff Attorney Clarissa Lehman for her research and development on this law and organization of getting everyone to the table to make this happen. Yawangogiwa, thank you very much, Clarissa. This is what collaboration looks like, and I'm proud of the work that was accomplished. Yahweh.
Well, thank you for your statement for the record. Jenny?
I want to extend my gratitude to the team as well. You know, Jameson said this happened within the last 2 weeks. And, you know, just really, really applaud the work that was done within, the work on the weekend as well, that was done for this law, for the protection of our community. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jenny. All right, with that, we'll go to Mark Paulus.
I'd also like to express appreciation for the work that's been done towards this effort. Of course, we have a lot of employees within the nation that are dedicated to ending cycles of abuse in our community. We're a community that has experienced a lot of trauma over the years, and these types of actions work towards ending those cycles of abuse. So much appreciation to everybody that was involved in this effort. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. I'll go to community member Nancy. You got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, where my concern is this is not the first or the last time that a person has been released to this reservation who has been a, violent sexual offender. And so now we have a law. And my question or my follow-up, I guess, will be is how will we in the future be notified by Department of Corrections? We don't have an agreement with them. I'm not sure how this isolated case became an issue because there are other people who have been released on this reservation and without notification. We don't know, I don't know where they're residing, but, this is a profound case. It's a profound issue. I'm glad there's a law, but how in the future will we be protected? Because, I'm well aware that there are, and I have to get some help, again, about the CCAP list, about when 2 violent sex offenders will be released. They are both tribal members back into the neighborhoods, including my neighborhood. And so I'm concerned, about this follow-up. We got 1 case and 1 neighborhood, and, somebody came, the sky was falling, and everybody stopped everything and did what they needed to do. My concern is you're imposing fines for violations. And, my understanding is when you are on probation, and you usually are for an extended period of time when you are a sex offender, we call them redliners. If you look them up, all of their charges, and there's a thing around their profile that identifies them as a sexual offender. So, that's just, an FYI. But where I want to talk about is on page 9, where you have, therefore be it resolved, and you're saying safe neighborhoods law citation schedule. Normally, when a person violates a probation condition, they are apprehended and put back in jail as a probation violation. And so on here, what you're saying is, well, we'll give you a fine, and then you can go to the judiciary, and I guess I'm having a problem with that. If you violate a law, as serious as it is, the money value of that, there is no money value. You have violated a law to protect our children. The other thing that I highlighted, I was concerned about, was on page 18 of 31, and it says a map of the prohibited locations. I haven't seen a GIS map of this reservation, and there are, you know, a number of maps in this packet identifying Central Oneida, identifying Oneida Lake, but there are a lot of other places on this reservation, including the Corey Park, including, you know, the Buffalo Lookout. There's a lot of places on this reservation that a person can go where there's access to not only children, but other people. So, I don't know. You know, I agree that, yes, maybe we do need to have a law internally, but I'm concerned about if there's violations that you're gonna fine them. And also in the future, what is the plan for the Department of Corrections to work with OPD to let the rest of us know when the rest of the sex offenders are gonna get out of jail? I also wanna bring up one issue about, you know, and I'll say his name, Sugar Bear. He came up here and he had some issues, and he
Nancy, you
proposed a
can't
law.
talk to individuals.
Okay, I won't
prohibited.
say it, but there was an issue, and I apologize. I was trying to be more careful about that. There was an issue, and he proposed a banishment proposal, and the individual who violated the tribal member was banished from this reservation. He was an Indian from a different tribe, can't remember where, I think in Minnesota. So I just wanted to share that with you, that there is a history somewhere of that kind of thing being done. And from what I'm aware, that was the one and only banishment that I'm aware of. So I just wanted to bring that up. That has to be
Thank you, Nancy.
20
Your
years ago.
time has expired. Just to, I guess, get a little bit additional background. So the process, according to state law, that's why the Department of Corrections reached out to Oneida Police Department, because that is the state process for, there's different categories of sex offenders, and this particular one exceeded this particular category that required notification to the police department. And so that's how that happened, because it's required by state law for the Department of Corrections to notify the neighboring jurisdiction, I guess, where a sex offender is going to be released. And as far as the fines and things like that, Wisconsin is a public law 280 state, so we don't have criminal jurisdiction over these types of individuals, but we do have tribal ordinances, and that's where the fines come in, keeping that separate. So even though an individual might violate our tribal laws, doesn't mean that they're violating state laws, and generally the probation follows state laws. So there is a distinction between tribal law and state law for this particular law that we're considering emergency adopting today. And I know Jameson had his hand up. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think that you covered all that, but I will say that the question about, like, all those questions and concerns that you had, Nancy, definitely valid. We had discussed those issues. And like I mentioned earlier, we only had, we had 20 days to put this together. We had this business committee meeting date as the date that we wanted to get this adopted on the emergency level, as the offender is going to be released, if not released already. So we wanted to ensure that there's a law in place to restrict his residency here on the reservation. But you did have that question about, like, and I think the chairman answered it already, but the citation schedule, if they break the law, they break the law. They're usually on probation, so now they're gonna go through judiciary and go through that process. Was your comments is how I paraphrased it. And so we wanted to have that. First, the citation schedule is much more punitive than any jurisdiction in the state of Wisconsin from the laws that we have reviewed. The 2,000, I think it's an escalator, so it's like 1,000, or it's 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, something like that. I know it's here, I'm not gonna look at it right now. But those escalators in in violations with coming within the 2,500 feet of any of the prohibited locations is much more steep than any other jurisdictional law that's out there that prohibits these types of offenders to be within a certain radius of prohibited locations. So as Chairman said, it's a PL 280 state, so we don't have criminal jurisdiction over these type of cases, but we think that by instituting this part into the law, the citation schedule is going to trigger that at the state level. So once they see that at our level in judiciary and it's going through that process, they're gonna say, okay, he violated their law. And so that's gonna be a violation for the individuals that had these types of offenses that are on papers and on probation. So again, I think the Chairman answered most of it, but we have 6 months for this emergency legislation, so we are going to continue to build onto this law and add more things that we weren't able to capture. We knew that we weren't going to be able to get everything, but that's why we have the 6 months to work on this stuff. And then thereafter, if we have to adopt it on an emergency basis again, we have another 6 months. So we actually have a full year to formally adopt the law and codify it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, go to community member Kathy Metoxen. You got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand the probation process and, you know, coming out of prison and all that kind of stuff. And it's a very interesting law that you are trying to create here. My family has survived a predator. My family has experienced a predator. This is the first time I'm seeing and hearing of this law. It would have been wonderful if I could have sat in on this because I have a lot of experience. I'm almost an expert at this, and it's in the field of same-sex sexual harassment. And I met 5 other families who experienced what my family experienced by the same person in this community. And it's not just about children, young men, adults. Some predators go after the young men that aren't 21 yet for some reason. And I had to go 4 years within our judicial system to try to fight off this predator. So I have a lot of experience in this, and advocacy experience and judiciary experience and laws. And when this happened, my youngest son was 11 years old and he was followed by the predator down the hill on his bike. And the only person within the tribe when I was trying to seek help that was willing to help me was Don White. And I was always thankful for him for that. But I know about predators. And that predator sat on this business committee at one point. And that's where it is.
Kathy, make
It's
sure
not
that your
just
comments are proper.
It's not just about children. I'm trying to say, it's not just about children. We have predators within the workforce. And I have advocated for other people who have been on the job and have been mistreated and have gone through the judicial system. I've tried. It doesn't work. There hasn't been enough. If my son was alive, he'd be 38 years old, and he was 11 years old when that happened to him. And I've been asking for a law. Is there a law on same-sex sexual harassment yet? Because they tried to tell me that they didn't have no law, so they couldn't deal with it. And my understanding is when you take something before the judiciary, the next law closest to it is what you go by. And we have sexual harassment, but do we finally have a same-sex sexual harassment law for our young men, our young employees? Because this doesn't just affect children. And it's not just girls. It's men and it's boys. And there are numerous people who have tried to stand up and say something at different times about incest. These things are hard to discuss and talk about. Nobody wants to hear it, see it, or think it. I've been able to talk about it for almost 40 years because I've been asking the questions. My family experienced a predator up close and personal. And when is somebody going to finally take it seriously, as you say, Jameson? What was your word? Serious and paramount. Because my son was 11 years old at the time when I started my journey on all this predator stuff. And if he was here today, he'd be 38 years old. And it affected every one of my children and every one of my grandchildren and others and their families that were going through very similar things that I had to go through and my family had to go through. And you talk about family. You know, you got your good mind, good spirit, good family. I want to see it. This is a good law, finally, after all these years. And I've been coming up here for 45 years. I wish my son was here and he could tell you for himself because he would have. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you, Kathy, for sharing your experience. And as Jameson noted, that this is an emergency adoption, so it still does have to run through, for permanent adoption, the regular legislative process. So public hearing and public comment will be a part of that, and the continued work sessions and LOC meetings. So you definitely have time to participate. With that, I will go to Clarissa.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to provide a little more clarification on the application of this law. So this law is not specific to protecting just children. It aims at protecting the entire community in all vulnerable populations. Just a little bit more information on what this law does. So this law looks at setting prohibited locations throughout the entire reservation. So this law will prohibit anyone who's a registered sex offender from being present or entering on any property that's a school, a tribal or other licensed daycare or childcare center, a park or park facility, a playground or other green space, an athletic field, including any practice field, a library, a community center, a fitness center, recreation center, or gym, a farmer's market, a place of worship, and any other place designated by the nation as a place where those vulnerable populations, including children, are known to congregate. So you'll see in that adopting resolution, there was a directive for GIS to create a map of the resolution. So in this emergency adoption packet, there were a couple maps included that were used for demonstrative purposes to give the LOC an idea when they're drafting in the community now, a way to understand what this potentially looks like. So again, those maps are only looking at specific areas, but eventually there'll be a whole map of the reservation that will highlight each and every one of those prohibited locations so that the community and sex offenders would know where they are not allowed to be present. Then the next layer of this law is it sets those residency restrictions, which means that a sex offender cannot live anywhere within 2,500 feet of any of these locations throughout the reservation. So that essentially creates these various different safety zones where we are protecting our community. Again, that map is supposed to be completed by GIS and submitted to the website within 30 days, and GIS has identified that that should be no problem to get that directive done. And as it was just mentioned, this was just an emergency adoption, so it will be going through kind of that formal legislative process, and we hope to encourage everyone to attend the various LOC meetings where this is on the agenda and to attend future public meetings to provide their input on how we can improve this law moving forward. And then my last point I wanted to clarify was this law doesn't address the notification of the community regarding sex offenders. And our map will not identify where sex offenders live. It just identifies the prohibited locations and those restricted residency zones. But there are websites out there that you could either type in specific names or type in your address that will identify you or identify for you any sex offenders living within a certain range. So I think coupled with the tools that already exist and the map that will be created by GIS will both be great resources for the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Clarissa. Any other discussion on this topic? Looks like Scott Denny.
Thank you. So first I wanted to say, just sorry to hear about, for Kathy, just sorry to hear about the information that she had shared, something I didn't know, and it's really, part of the reason why my second point is expressing the appreciation of this law coming forward. So, and more so from the perspective of administering the housing that we have as a landlord. Currently the landlord-tenant law reads that we have to, the person that applies has to meet the local government's laws requirements regarding residency restrictions for convicted sex offenders. This has proved to be challenging since the adoption of the law. And as we've had situations arise where people have applied for our rental programs, and under our federal housing, HUD does restrict us housing lifetime registered sex offenders. But there, as was pointed out by somebody, that there are different tiers of sex offenders that are still on the registry. And of course, without the United Nations having something in place, it's made some things challenging in how do we respond to the applicant. And there was a specific situation where, as I worked with that applicant, that, we had to hone in on how the law read, meeting the local laws. So then at that point, we had actually then he had done all the work with the different municipalities trying to find housing, but he was applying here. So his argument was, of course, would we let him apply? Would he qualify? Well, he would only qualify if he could meet the local laws. And the nation had nothing at the time, which is refreshing you're making this. So it meant that there was limited places that he could live. And one of the places that he could live, according to Hobart's map, was still going to be an apartment complex that, should his name come up and should he be the next on the list, well, he qualified for the program according to the law. And of course, if I were to house him there, then my concern was the people that lived in that apartment complex having concern about his lifetime registered status. So I'm just expressing my appreciation for this law coming forward. It's going to make things a little more clearer for us as we move forward, both with our federal funded housing and our non-federal funded housing. So thank you for all the work that's gone into this. And I'm looking forward to when it is in place so that we can utilize it as we continue to move forward, housing the families and promoting healthy and safe neighborhoods. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. Any other discussion? Not seeing any. There is a motion by Larry, seconded by Jenny, to adopt the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, thank you everyone for the solid, quick work. Moving on to appointments. Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the selected applicant and to appoint Patricia Moore to the Oneida Election Board with a term ending July 31st, 2028.
Thank you. There's a motion by Lisa, seconded by Larry. Any discussion on the appointment? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item B, Lisa?
I'll make a motion to accept the selected applicants to appoint Dan Skindor to the Oneida Election Board Ad Hoc Committee with a term ending December 31st, 2026, and to request the secretary to repost the remaining vacancy.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item C, Lisa?
Make a motion to accept the selected applicants to appoint Mary King, Justine Huff, and Ramona Salinas to the Oneida Election Board alternates with terms that end upon the ratification of the 2026 general election results.
So motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. Discussion. Nancy, you got 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm referring to page 43 in the packet. I was here when these people got sworn in, so I'm not sure why this is on here, because they've already been sworn in.
Lisa?
I believe Mary and Justine, it might be who you're referring to, I believe they got sworn into the ad hoc committee for the election board.
And so what is this? Oh, election board alternates.
That's
Oh,
for the
because of
election day
I
activities.
see, sorry.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Item D, determine next steps for vacancies. Lisa?
I'll make a motion to defer the next steps regarding the 3 vacancies on the Oneida ESC Group LLC Board of Managers to the March 11th, 2026 regular business committee meeting.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Larry. Any further discussion? Lisa?
Just noting the application period is closed. The business committee has reviewed the applications. There's some additional administrative work that we're getting done. Well, that chief counsel is taking care of on our behalf. A few resolutions that have to be developed and some correspondence that's being finalized. So the actual appointments will be happening at the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Lisa, for the notice. Discussion. Nancy, you got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, this whole subject got away on me real fast. The last time that I was involved in, and I'll call it OTI, you know, for lack of a better, everything's changed so much. And there's, you know, a total of 12 subsidiaries now. So my question is with this board, are they overseeing all of these subsidiaries, or how is this all gonna work? I was pretty shocked, I guess, and amazed at how fast this thing, you know, I don't wanna say got away on me, but it did. I was following it from the very beginning. I was fascinated with the corporation, and now seeing that there are a total of 12 subsidiaries, I guess I'm looking at, are these 3 people going to be overseeing all of that?
Yeah, so this corporate structure, Oneida ESC is essentially the holding company, which is the larger overarching, and then all those 12 subsidiaries are underneath it and report to Oneida ESC. Okay. All right, any other discussion? Kathy, do you have discussion on this topic? I have a question. All right, go ahead, you got 5 minutes.
Could you explain more what it is exactly? I'm just curious because a lot of boards, committees, and commissions, there's people that sit on numerous boards and committees and commissions, and that are, in my mind, questionable because they have jobs. Is it going to take them away from their jobs?
Nope, so this is a corporate board, and it's done through this appointment process. And as boards are, they're not full-time positions. These are whenever their scheduled meetings are that they would participate. Usually most boards have their meetings in the evenings to allow for people to work and also participate on these boards. This is a corporate board.
Is this one of these boards that makes like $300 or $400 every time they meet, or is it basic?
It's a corporate board. I'm not sure of the dollar amount, but I'm pretty sure it's probably more than the boards, committees, and commissions stipend.
Oh. It's a new way to look for more money, in my mind. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
I can only think of one person.
Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to item E. Lisa?
Motion to accept the selected applicant and to appoint Brian Denny to the Oneida Land Commission with a term ending July 31st, 2027.
All right, motion by Lisa, seconded by Jameson. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Item F, Lisa.
Motion to accept the selected applicants to appoint Paul Gutierrez II and Daniel Schuyler to the Oneida Nation Arts Board with terms ending March 31st, 2029, and to appoint Paul Smith to the Oneida Nation Arts Board with a term ending March 31st, 2028.
Motion by Lisa, second by Larry. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Item G, Lisa.
Motion to accept the selected applicants to appoint Gerald Cornelius, Dan Skinador, and Francis Huntington to the Oneida Nation Veteran Affairs Committee with terms ending December 31st, 2028.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jonas. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to the next section is Standing Committee. Item A, Legislative Operating Committee, number 1, accept the February 4th, 2026 regular Legislative Operating Committee meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jameson. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
I have a question.
Question on,
The LOC meeting minutes, I participated in a public hearing, and I felt like it was illegal because there was only one person from the LOC at that hearing. And so I don't know what the internal process or SOPs or anything are, but after I left, I felt like, once again, a lonely soldier. There's only one up here besides her. And I don't know, it felt weird. Like, how can you have a public hearing with only one person from the board? I don't know. I guess I'm just looking for that. It's not, related to this report, but it came up. So.
Jameson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Nancy, for your concern about the attendance of LOC members at public meetings. There's only one required to carry out the public meeting. And so, really, for the most part, I won't get into the attendance part, but we really only need one person to deliver the premeditated message of, and then insert the law that we're talking about and we're receiving public comments about. Usually we want that individual to be prepped and ready to go to answer we're not answering any questions anyway. That's something that we usually don't do, so really we just need an LOC member to put through the public meeting and take in those comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonas?
Also, just to add, the LOC kind of in our strategic planning, took the initiative, like, if the sponsor of those laws is to conduct those hearings or those public comment periods. And then also, from my understanding, those are just a listening session, so there's no like responses from the LOC. It's more or less just to conduct the process and then get the input from the community during those public hearings.
All right, thank you, Jonas. All right, Clarissa.
Yes, Councilman Wilson and Hill are both correct that the Legislative Procedures Act only requires that there be one Legislative Operating Committee member who kind of facilitates that public meeting. But I did want to highlight that all the comments that are received either orally during the public meeting or written during that written submission period are collected. And then the entire LOC, at a minimum, a quorum of LOC members, which is 3, are required to review every comment in its totality and then consider those comments. So although you might not have seen all the LOC members present at that public meeting, all LOC members will be reviewing the public comments that were received and making considerations on those public comments. Those considerations do come back in a public comment review memorandum that will be submitted at an upcoming LOC meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Clarissa. With that, we'll move on to the next item. Is there any willingness to?
Oh, I didn't know that I had to have it turned on.
Yeah, if you stay at the table, I don't know if you guys are willing to speak on an item. So I generally look up, and if I don't see you raising your hand or turn your mic on, I can't tell if you're there because you're camping out at the speaker's table.
And I came over from my seat. I don't stay up here.
Kathy?
Okay. I was at the hearing also, and I didn't feel comfortable. I felt like I'd be wasting my time. I got things to do too, and I'm not getting paid to be here. But I did ask for where do I go to get a copy of the law so I can put in writing my response, and I didn't get an answer. So after I left here, I was down in the main office the following day looking for the law to respond to it in writing, and they didn't know what I was talking about. And I said it was on the LOC agenda just Wednesday. And she said, I don't know what you're talking. Could you provide me? And I said, well, I don't get paid to be here, and I'm not doing your job for you. You should know how to do that yourself. I mean, that's why you work, right? To provide information and stuff. But at the very least, there should be a courtesy. You know, I didn't want to waste my time because it didn't feel right. It felt, and I said, this doesn't seem right. It's illegal. And I'd been advocating against LOC for many years because it's the BC members that write the laws with the law department, and then it comes back to the BC for approval and the law department, and they're approving their own work and stuff. So I've always basically advocated against it, that there should be community members that sit on that LOC, you know, and people with life experience and such, and, you know, laws are laws. But I guess I just ask for decent courtesy, you know, irregardless of how anybody feels about each other. You know, you still gotta see people, still gotta react with them. Sometimes you don't want to because of your experiences. It happens, and it's like that. So that's all I got to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kathy. Jameson?
Yeah, well, Mr. Chair, Kathy, thank you for your comments. And so if you are looking for a copy of the law, we almost always have them at the desk where the meeting agenda for today's meeting is at that desk. When you walk in, if there isn't one, there's always the assigned attorney to the law that's being considered for public comment. So, and they usually sit back there during the public meeting. So and there's always an LOC member here. So you can either ask one of the LOC member that's presiding over the public meeting, or you can reach out to one of the assigned attorneys to ask for that information. But in most cases, a copy of the law, the legislative analysis will be at that table for commenters and people that are participating at the meeting for their purview. The other one is the other concern that you had about the LOC and the business committee adopting their own laws. I usually don't do this, but comparing the BC, the LOC to Congress or to state assembly or the state senate, they all adopt their own laws. And so this isn't some random process for adopting laws. And then secondly, there are community members that sit on the LOC. We're all community members, but I get what you're saying. And that's why we're trying to enhance that process of collaborating and engaging the community with some of our community meetings. We've held community work sessions where we've done read-throughs of the law in these government chambers, the sanctions and penalties law specifically, actually, where we've had read-throughs. So we've tried to enhance that engagement. So just wanted to respond to some of your comments. Thank you, Kathy.
Jenny?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on, I was the LOC committee member that was presiding over that meeting, and I'm sorry that you felt that you wasted your time because there was only two people here, you know, Nancy and Kathy, but that really is the opportunity for us to hear your comments. So I encourage you to come back for every public hearing. I encourage everybody online to come for the public hearings. That's where we truly want to get community's input for the laws that are, you know, laws that are on the books that day. So just want to you know, let everybody know that's the opportunity. That's where we really hear your voice. And like we said, then we go back, everything is recorded, we go back and we go through every issue line by line to look at the recommendations and see what we can and cannot apply to the law. So that's really the opportunity. And I know that's one of the issues that are on an upcoming GTC, but that's part of the LPA. That's the open door when we're hearing everybody. So just wanted to add that content. And I know, Kathy, you asked me for a copy of those laws that day. You know, you left that day. I immediately went to the copy room, which is right here, made those copies, and then I couldn't find you. So apologize for that. They're probably still sitting on my desk if you want them. But, you know, again, really that public hearing, that public community is where we want to hear everybody's voice. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I
Jenny,
get a list of
your
all
comments?
those laws that are, can I get a list of all the laws that are active or inactive or whatever you have? You just said you have a whole list of laws.
I can provide you another copy. Yes, Kathy.
Okay.
At one of our last meetings, I did provide both you and Nancy a copy of the active files list, which just doesn't just show the active files. It shows who's assigned to them, what attorneys assigned to them, what LOC sponsor is sponsoring the law, and then also where that particular law is as a priority and where it's at within the legislative process. But we can certainly get a couple of copies for both you and
Okay,
Nancy.
even better. Thank you.
All right, I was gonna move on. We talked about the meeting minutes for the LOC for an extensive amount of time, not necessarily related to the meeting minutes, so we're gonna move on to tabled business. Is there any action to take from the table? Item A?
No.
No action. Moving on to travel reports. Item A, approved travel report for Councilman Metoxen.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, second by Jenny. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. One abstention, Kirby. Item B, approved travel report for Councilman Kirby Metoxen, State of the Tribes. Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jonas. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. One abstention, Kirby. Moving on to travel requests. Larry?
Just a correction, I'll call it travel report for Mr. Metaxen states the Homeland site visit. The location noted is Choctaw, Mississippi, just to, you know, note the correction. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, noting for travel item A.
Yeah, the corrected report has been submitted for the record.
All right, thank you. Moving on to travel requests, approved travel requests for Councilwoman Jennifer Webster, Share the Care Indigenous Cancer Conference in Lac du Flambeau, June 22nd through 26th. Motion by Jameson, seconded by Jonas. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. One abstention, Jenny. Item B, approved travel requests in accordance with 21916-1 Oneida Nation School System for 5 FACE members to attend the National Technical Assistance Days in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, April 20th through 24th of 26. Motion by Jenny, seconded by Jonas. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to new business. Item A, approve the Bay Bank Corporation Corporate Social Responsibility Policy. Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, I believe we do not need to, this is just an error on the agenda for A, B, and C. I don't believe we need to approve any of these documents. We're just accepting them.
Accepting? Okay. All right, there's a motion by Larry, seconded by Jonas to accept the Bay Bank Corporation's Corporate Social Responsibility Policy. Any discussion?
I'm sorry.
Nancy, you got 5 minutes, thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm on the wrong topic. You're accepting the socially responsible, and I'm looking at Bay Bank's quarterly report, so I'll just wait for that to come up.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item B, accept the Oneida Gulf Enterprise Corporate Social Responsibility Policy. Motion by Jenny, seconded by Jonas. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item C, accept the Oneida ESC Group LLC Corporate Social Responsibility Policy.
Support.
Motion by Jenny, supported by Kirby. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, this moves us to item D, accept the Comprehensive Housing Department wait list report. Mark?
Thank you. Just some quick background. The January 28th regular Oneida Business Committee meeting agenda included operational reports from Nation Services. Among those reports was a quarterly report provided by Comprehensive Housing Division. During discussion of that agenda item, a request for a report detailing waitlist details was requested. The detailed report of the waitlist is included in the packet. Also additionally, per Scott Denny, the residential rentals area manager, additionally, the demand for rental housing within the Oneida Reservation boundaries for enrolled Oneida households continues to be high. Comprehensive Housing Division administers 3 rental programs aimed at varying income levels and ages. Each of the rental programs maintain a wait list of approved applicants in need of an affordable rental housing option. The households seeking affordable rental housing options include single adults, adult couples, small to large families, elders 55 plus and 62 plus, and those with disabilities, as the conventional rental market continues to see increased rents that for many low to moderate income households proves unaffordable. The demand for Oneida enrolled households seeking affordable rental housing options is on the rise. And just a very quick summary of that waitlist report. In total, the current waitlist is comprised of 148 qualifying applicants. There was also a question about how many new move-ins there have been in recent months. So since August 1st, there have been a total of 15 new move-ins in which units needed to be readied for occupancy. In addition, there have been 5 new move-ins for the most recently completed project, the multifamily apartments.
All right, thank you, Mark. We'll go to Kirby and then Jonas.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for getting this. This helps me a lot because we get so many questions out there from the community. So I like these kinds of numbers so we can also compare going forward. Are things moving? Are they stagnant? Are things happening? So it does help. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kirby. Jonas?
And then just curious of how many units are going to be available within the coming months for individuals on this list.
So when you say become available, are you asking how many tenants may be moving out?
How many are going to be moving in, or how many, like the new ones, it says August, or there's some new units available?
So we do have the multifamily housing units that were recently completed. That's 12 units. Stated here, we have 5 move-ins for those units. They're continuing to work on filling those available units, and then it's difficult to project how many current tenants may be exiting their unit for whatever reason. So it is difficult to project exits from existing units or exits of existing tenants.
Is there any strategic plan for the rent-to-own program to make units available for that program?
So housing, they met recently regarding, I guess, a development plan for either new units or, increasing opportunities for home ownership. Of course, the area is limited by the resources that they have. They currently manage about 460 total rental units for Oneida enrolled tribal membership. So, if they do move to, and I should add that they're also working with Land Commission to acquire additional residential sales units. So there are continuing efforts to provide either home ownership opportunities or rental opportunities for our tribal membership. And sorry, one other thing. The construction home loan program will be coming online soon as well. So that's a project that they've been working on for a while, and that will be coming to fruition relatively soon. That will provide an additional $4 million in loan funds for tribal membership to construct their own homes within reservation boundaries.
Thank you, Mark. Larry and then Jameson.
Yes, I would like to see some quantified finite number of the rent to own and/or any strategy, effort, and formalization of how that's going to be formalized on a go-forward basis, knowing that many first-time home buyers simply do not have the liquidity in their household resources at a 20% of equity, which approaches in some cases, given the appraisal on the home, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. That is the single biggest obstacle or impediment to home ownership. So it's a very important program. So some follow-up onto which we are looking at how to overcome that for the benefit of our first-time home buyers, typically young couples with young families. And I think we have some work to do there. Again, most young families don't have a prescribed savings set aside. Many of our employees, of course, paycheck to paycheck, but to come up with that level of liquidity is very burdensome. So I just wanted to highlight the need to formalize and try to attenuate accommodating those young couples. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Larry. I'll go to Jameson and then Mark and then Lisa.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chair, this might be a question for Lisa Rauschenbach. The question is, so the income-based rental program is primarily funded through the Indian Housing Block Grant, both of them, I'm assuming, or at least the main, the non-competitive one. And then maybe Lisa can correct that. Maybe you can answer it, Mark. So my question is, don't have to put dollar amounts out there. What is the percentage of federal funds that fund the 364 units for like rehab jobs, bringing it up to code, all that stuff? And then how much of a percentage of that comes from tribal contribution?
Lisa Rauschenbach.
I don't have my numbers, girl, on here, but I believe it's about 80% is through the IHBG grant, and then the rest is program income.
And then we have, thank you, Lisa. So like 80-20, the 80-20 rule?
About 80, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then the Indian Housing Block Grant competitive grant is currently used for 16 housing projects, or housing projects that will home and house 16 different families.
That is correct. And just to speak to what Larry was talking about, the rent to own, 9 of those units will be constructed for rent to own out of that competitive grant.
And so that that competitive Indian Housing Block Grant is paramount to ensure that the project's carried out.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Go to Mark.
And I just want to confirm what the treasurer stated. It's it continues to be a very challenging housing market, regardless of where you live or what community you reside in. Housing has continued to be adaptive to the needs of the community and the challenges of the housing market. Thank you, Lisa, for providing additional details on the rent-to-own options for tribal membership.
Thank you, Mark. Lisa Rauschenbach?
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Mark was saying about that we are working on a development plan while we may not be having development as our priority right now, because we are focusing our efforts on preserving our current housing rental inventory. We have done other things. We created a housing choice voucher program, which housed 30 tribal members, and a tribal HUD VASH voucher program, which housed 25 veterans. These programs work by paying a portion of their rent in the outside market. We also have that $6 million competitive grant that we're working on those 16 units. 4 of those will be done by this summer. Our residential sales area, as Mark mentioned, is working with Bay Bank Accounting and Legal on a construction loan, which would address home building opportunities for those. We've been working with land management to provide HBO lots, home building opportunity lots for home ownership. And we've also been working with Land Commission, as he mentioned, and acquisition as a part of the strategy to obtain 4 to 5 ready-to-sell homes. Our first home was just recently acquired, and we've been working on land to streamline that process. So we are looking at other housing options, even though we're not working necessarily with our priority on development. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Any other questions from the committee? Jenny?
Thank you for the report. I appreciate that. My question is, I don't know if you have an average turnaround time for when residents damage properties, and then you've got to do the cleaning, you've got to do the restoration and rehab. Is there an average turnaround time that you have? And I don't know if, it's all based on how much damage there is. And then second question, what is that cost? And then third question, the damages. A number of years ago, we went on a tour of some of the houses that were vacated, and they were damaged and just left in such disarray that I think I walked out back and threw up because it was so bad. How do we encourage, or how do you mitigate tribal members from damaging our own units? Because that damage only hurts the delay in the next family that's going to move in there. How do we encourage our members to not be doing that type of damage to our units, because it hurts the rest of the community? Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Mark?
So due to the complexity and the strategy utilized by housing, it's difficult to state an average turnaround time. There was a strategy to turn around units that could be quickly turned around, so units that did not have much damage, did not need much rehab or renovation. That was a strategy that was utilized for quite some time. That resulted in some units sitting vacant for years. So, of course, there was community concern about units that were vacant for years. Housing has now adopted a revised strategy to address some of those long-term vacancies and get those houses turned around. Of course, that's at substantial cost and at substantial utilization of staff hours, and also contracted hours for those efforts as well. So those units that have had substantial damage, and I think for maybe the average listener, it may be difficult to comprehend how much some of these units have been damaged. That requires a lot of energy and time. So So that results in less resources dedicated to some of those quick turnarounds. So again, housing attempts to be adaptive to community concerns in the housing market. In regards to prevention of that damage, and I'm certainly not using this as an excuse or blaming COVID, but during that time, the home inspections were paused. And when you pause home inspections, you are allowing damage, and it's not always the tenants that are to blame. It could be a leaky faucet that, leaky pipes that people are just not aware of, and you don't discover it until there's considerable water damage, mold, et cetera. But because those annual home inspections were paused, there were cases where the damage was unaddressed for an extended period of time. Housing has reinstated home inspections, and that should curb the damage that takes place in those units. Also, they've employed 2 tenant specialists, and those tenant specialists can assist tenants who may be experiencing a wide range of issues within their home and help them to address some of those issues that are resulting in damage to units. So there's a few different approaches that are taking place to make sure that damage is caught early and addressed quickly, and then also efforts to work with tenants to prevent damage to units or other issues that occur within units. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark, for those responses. And yeah, I too believe that the inspection process needs to be followed and probably updated. I know, as we all hear regularly at this table, when housing comes up, and the turnaround time is due to damage by our tribal citizens in these housing units, but then also some of that falls back to our department as well in getting these homes inspected regularly. And, you know, it's just my personal belief that probably once a year is probably not enough at this point. I would suggest that, you know, twice a year home inspections for a number of years, then they can graduate out of the twice a year inspection and go down to once a year home inspection, just to stay on top of it, because if it's let go too long, the damage just compounds and you end up with these units that are in need of extensive work without the proper monitoring. And I think, as we all know, home ownership isn't anything easy or inexpensive. It's expensive to own a home, and if you don't know how to do basic maintenance, things can get out of hand rather quickly. As Mark said, with a leaky pipe or a leaky toilet, a leaky sink, GFCIs, and, you know, the whole bit, everything, changing air filters, you know, making sure your fire alarms have batteries and things like that are all important aspects of home ownership, and being able to know what that entails, I think, is important. And being able to get more of our tribal members into home ownership, I think, helps raise families out of poverty, because then they have an asset that they can rely on for should there be emergency arise. All right, with that, we'll go to Lisa Rauschenbach, and then we'll get to the community members.
I just wanted to quickly speak to the inspection process. CHD has been working diligently and has a team of individuals that's been revamping the inspection process. And Scott Denny, our residential rentals manager, has been a large portion of that and overseeing that project. The new increased inspection standards are working well. However, it's also creating a huge backlog of work that, again, from COVID, you know, all the stuff that's been sitting not being addressed is now going to create a larger workload of things that we are looking to strategize on how we can accomplish those, because the work from just one inspection is pretty big. So I do agree that inspections definitely need to be enhanced, and we are working to address that. Those standards are ones that are going to be mimicked from HUD with their Inspire standards. So just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lisa, for the update. With that, we'll go to community member Nancy Barton. You got 5 minutes, thank you.
This report was a product of information that was requested from the quarterly report. And, when I come to the quarterly reports, I'm looking for information like this. I'm looking for statistics, I'm looking for numbers. And so, how unfortunate that we had to have a report like this come back. It's time extensive. What I wanted to talk about is, there was mention of the homes that are being coordinated with the land office. And what I know about those is that we have bought houses in the past and they have sat empty until we've had to tear them down. So I'm not sure what the process is currently in place, but, I can name 3 homes close to where I live, where those homes, people lived in them up until the minute we bought them. And then they sat empty, and then they were boarded up, and then they were tore down. So I'm concerned about that whole process. If we're buying homes and we're not moving people in them, and they sit empty until the raccoons move in, and then we got to tear them down, what is the purpose and the intent of all of that? I'm going to talk for a minute on Jenny's conversation regarding the damage. And I'm well aware of what you're talking about and how unfortunate, that people, are given a home when they move in. It's clean, it's ready to go, and you come in there and you allow, your family members or yourself to trash and damage that place. What I am aware of is when you do move out or when you're evicted, that housing will come in and do an itemized damage assessment, and you're charged. You're charged for all of that. You're charged for light bulbs, you're charged for shades, and I'm well aware of that because of someone who lived in housing, moved out, and then had to come back, and they had a bill with housing, and so they had to clean it up in order to, go back into comp housing site. One comment that I also want to make is, like some of our housing projects are so old. Site 1 and Site 2, those houses are, I can't tell you how many years, a lot of years, 35, 40 years old, and we're still collecting rent, still charging everybody rent, their rental units every month. Got to have your rent or you're going to get kicked out. That is a separate pot of money. And, that's never been, identified or reported. There are all different pots of money coming in, grants. Jameson named them, and I didn't write it down. So, that has been a concern of mine because there are people who've been living in one of those units in Site 2 for 20-some years. And they're like, for the amount of rent that we paid there, we could own this home. And they've been on a list to own a home, but now their kids are all grown up and they don't qualify. So how unfortunate that that's, what we're running. I am well aware, of some of the damage that's been done to homes, and individuals have been re-rented to and also given the opportunity to have what's called a mutual help home. And those are the homes where you're paying to buy them. It's an amortization schedule. Some of them were 25 years, some were 30, and one of them got moved down to 15. So, those are just some of the comments that I wanted to make about the CHD rental program. And, total, it looks like there's approximately 400 people waiting for housing. My concern with the Three Sisters property, when I saw those bulldozers going through there, was, oh my God, what is going on? And why are you building homes there when we own all this land in this beautiful outside country, and you're gonna stick everybody over there? And so, the issue is always infrastructure. Well, housing didn't come and ask for money to possibly build 16 units somewhere else besides over there. I don't know whose big idea that was, but I'm concerned about that because we can't take care of what we already have over there, and then now you're gonna put 16 more houses over there. There was a comment a while back made about an unmet need. And because we're talking about the budget and all of that's going to be coming pretty soon, this department definitely does have some unmet need. And one of them is you have a leaky faucet, you have a leaky toilet, you get put on a list for a work order, but you wait and you'll wait and you'll wait. And you know, the COVID, yes, that was a good excuse. COVID's over. And so those are my comments regarding all of this.
Thank you, Nancy. Mark?
Just a quick response to a couple things. Number one, feels like rarely there's a very straightforward answer to anything. When it comes to houses that the nation acquires, there are certainly times when, and the focus of Land Commission is to buy land. The focus of Land Commission is not solely towards purchasing buildings, houses, commercial spaces. It's to buy land. So there are occasions when Land Commission will make a purchase, and they are making a purchase with a dilapidated house on that land. On those occasions, those houses will wait until they are either demolished or until there is the funding available to renovate and rehab those houses. Land Commission has done a good job of incorporating housing into those conversations to make a determination as quickly as possible when the nation does purchase land that has a dilapidated house. Additionally, the current focus of CHD when it comes to land acquisition that is targeting the purchase of a residential unit, and as I stated earlier, Land Commission does have an intent to purchase a limited amount of houses every year for the purpose of residential sales. Those purchases are targeting houses that are ready to move in. So those are houses that have a limited need for renovation or rehab and can quickly be turned around for resale to tribal membership. So definitely a learning lesson from the past is that we do not want to acquire units that have may need $100,000 or $150,000 of investment. We do want to target units that have a quick turnaround, a limited amount of investment or rehab into those units and get those units into tribal membership's hands. So appreciate the comment there. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. I'll go to community member Kathy Metoxen. You got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's good to hear, instead of hearing about all the dilapidation and what the citizens or the community does to these homes, you know, wrecking them and everything. Instead of listening to that, it's good to hear that you're looking at it from another perspective. And yeah, they sit for a long time and they don't get worked on. But I come from another perspective. From my experience of being a bartender for almost a decade and a half and knowing a lot of the community members, I've heard everything you could think of over the years. And people, I used to be Grand Central Station, you know, because I used to follow things and such. But the whole other perspective that I think needs to be looked at, or may be looked at, is what's coming from the inside. Because a lot of people come here and they say, why this, why that? How come, you know, how come? I don't know what to tell them. You know, I tell them to come up here, talk to you guys. For whatever reason, they choose not to. They don't want to put it in writing. They want to report it. They don't want to complain. They don't want to get retaliated against. And, but Indian country is a small world, and we're a small world right here. And people talk. You know, people go out and sit on a bar stool and drink and share their stories every week. And what I keep hearing, and it keeps coming up, and it's been coming up for some time, is that some people are tired. They're tired of being told, slow down. You're working too fast. You don't want to be without a job. You know, take your time. Don't do this, don't do that. Stop what you're doing. That's a different perspective that needs to be maybe turned around and looked at. You know, because it's there. It's just who reaches out to the ordinary person out there that get calls a B word or a F word and by their supervisor. Because it happens, whether we like to hear it or not, it's going on. And I'd like to see you look at another perspective, you know. You've looked at both of them, you know, what the community does to these buildings, you know, what they're trying to do, fixing these buildings. And then there's that other perspective. There's somebody, and I call it immaturity and unprofessional. I always write about it because that's the first thing that comes to my mind. When I got to go get my medication, it's the same thing. You know, we need professionalism.
Chairman, point of order. I don't know how this applies to
Of course you wouldn't.
the housing
I
list.
apologize for that.
Okay.
But
you.
we're on housing. And all I'm saying is there's a whole nother perspective here that needs to be somehow tapped into so that people do feel safe and do feel trustworthy and confident and can come up here and actually talk to somebody that they should be talking to and not in the bars, on a bar stool. If you know, that, not to put it lightly. And that's the perspective I can come from sometimes. And I thank you for listening.
All right, thank you, Kathy, for sharing your perspective. I guess I share the perspective as well about, you know, work needing to get done, and people's dedication and time is important to do the jobs that they're hired to do. And so I just encourage, I guess generally Mark in his area to continue to improve upon those expectations in the workplace, that work is being done and completed and done professionally. But those are just general comments. Mark?
Thank you. I did remember what I also wanted to state. Comprehensive Housing Division within their rental units has enjoyed an occupancy rate between 90 and 95% for as long as I can remember. And that's the industry standard, is an occupancy rate of 90 to 95% for rental units. Really appreciate the discussion here, appreciate the opportunity to highlight the efforts and accomplishments of our Comprehensive Housing Division. Of course, housing is a priority for our tribal membership, and we expect to hear the concerns related to housing. And as I previously mentioned, housing continues to be adaptive to the needs of our community. But yes, we have enjoyed an occupancy rate of 90 to 95%. There will always be vacant units because we always have people that are moving in and out of units on a regular basis. So there will always be vacant units, and we are hitting the industry standard for an occupancy rate for the area. And if community members have questions, if they have concerns, they can feel free to reach out to my office. They can feel free to reach out to the division director, Lisa Rauschenbach. I know for a fact that she has put her contact information out into social media and made it available through other avenues for tribal membership that would like to come in and talk about any concerns that they do have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. We'll go to Scott Denny and then Lisa Rauschenbach.
Thank you. So I just was hoping to supply a little bit of some clarification, taking a little bit step back. So there was reference to the rent being paid and that being a separate pot of money, that type of thing. So I just want to provide some clarity on that. So internally, rental income, if you will, is identified as program income. And we've had pie charts and such in the gully and different reports that will highlight the rental revenue as either rent revenue or program income. That program income is combined with, especially like on the grant side of things, it's combined with that annual IHBG grant money. And so when the question was asked earlier about like how much money is allocated toward maintenance and rehab, for example, and the answer was an estimated 80%. That 80% is a combination of the grant money and the program income, which is the revenue coming from the units. So that money that comes from rent isn't stockpiled separately. It actually becomes part of our operational budget to be able to meet the needs of the units. And of course, in the grant part of what we do, which is about 80% of all of our rental inventory, the design of that grant is to actually supplement what the program income may not necessarily produce. That's what income-based rent is. So when somebody's paying $175 or $225 a month for rent, certainly that rent alone is not going to pay for the level of damage that may have happened in that property, or even if there wasn't damage, let's say just the reinvestment into the maintenance or reinvestment into the property from a rehab perspective, that $220 is not going to necessarily cover that. So it's a combination of both that make up that budget. And so when we break down the percentages in those pie charts that, as I said, that are have been made their way to the gully, they've made their way to different reports. Those percentages reflect that total amount of revenue coming in from different sources. As far as the conditions are going, there is a concern with condition and how people treat the properties for sure, and that is part of the picture. I think it was Nancy might have mentioned and acknowledged that there's a lot of old inventory, and that's very true. There's 194 units that are from pre-1997, which is NAHASDA, and that's called the 37 Act inventory. Those are the inventory that we didn't have a say in how they were built, what materials were used, so on and so forth, how they were designed. We didn't have a say. That was true, quote unquote, government housing. So those units actually make up a very large percentage of the current roster of units that have a need of heavy reinvestment, so that now they've supplied housing for families for decades, but they're at a point where we need to dig deeper into those units, renovate some more deeper structural issues that have been caused through age and site condition, and reinvest into those properties so that they can also serve people for more decades to come. So I just wanted to add a few of those perspectives to the dialogue that's happened, and hopefully it's helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. Lisa Rauschenbach.
Scott and Mark both kind of touched on both of them. I did want to just also thank Nancy and Kathy for their input, and also just put out again that expectations internally of staff and what's going on and communicated. I do like to hear those things so that I can address them, and I do welcome people to come to me with concerns at any given time. So I'm actually aware of a comment about slowing down and have been addressing that. So if you have, people that come to you and have concerns about housing, I'm always open to have a discussion about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rolinda?
Good morning. I wanted to respond to the concern that the rent amounts are not communicated to the members. Line 271 on page 40 of the General Tribal Council fiscal year 2026 budget packet indicates that the total cost for comprehensive, it says Oneida Housing Authority. That name has not officially been changed in the detail report. The total funding for operations is $10,626,268. That is funded by $8.9 million of grants, $1.6 million of external sales, which would be the rental fees and $104,604 of other income. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Relinda, for sharing the information. All right, what's the committee's pleasure on this report? Motion by Jane to accept. Supported by Kirby. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Item E, accept the memorandum regarding the withholding of pay for Councilman Marlon Scanador.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. Discussion?
Just noting that the requested correspondence that was directed at the last meeting was sent and delivered. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, will vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. And then item F, post one vacancy for the Oneida Nation Arts Board.
Second.
Motion by Jonas, seconded by Larry. Discussion? Seeing none, will vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. That brings us to our tribally chartered entities. Item number 1 is accept the Bay Bank Corporation fiscal year 26 first quarter report. Motion by Jonas, seconded by Jenny. Discussion? Not seeing any from the committee. We'll go to committee member Nancy Barton. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'm gonna reference page 145. I appreciate the report, but I don't understand all of the abbreviations and acronyms, and I sure would appreciate it because these are loans that are going out. There's 715 Oneida HRIP loans, 2 Oneida SSBCI loans, and 328 other tribal loans. So I don't know what those abbreviations, what those acronyms mean, probably for a reason. I don't need to be going and getting a loan, going into debt. Maybe it's for a reason, but I think other people, you know, there's not anybody here, but if they get a hold of that packet, or if they are looking for information about small business loans and all of that information, if you could just please spell it out, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Larry?
Yes, I can communicate that to the president, put a glossary or legend with those definitions to provide perspective. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion? All right, not seeing any, we will vote. There's a motion by Jonas, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to item 2, accept the Oneida Golf Enterprise fiscal year 26 first quarter report. Motion by Jonas, supported by Kirby. Discussion? Not seeing any, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to item 3, accept the Oneida ESC Group LLC fiscal year 26 first quarter report. Motion by Jonas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lisa. Discussion? Lisa?
Just noting, I think that we've had better success with moving these corporate entity reports, like to the tribally chartered entity reports to the top of the agenda, like scheduling them for 8:30. I think we were scheduling these for like 11:30, but then our meeting gets done sooner and then they're never able to present. So I think next quarter we'll move them up to be scheduled top of the agenda. Just food for that.
All right, thank you for that update and suggested change for the order of the agenda. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. That brings us to the next section of General Tribal Council. Item A, schedule a semi-annual General Tribal Council meeting. Lisa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item in the agenda is to schedule the semi-annual. There are 2 dates available, Monday, July 6th, Tuesday, July 7th. There is a typo on page 164 with the chart with the production schedule. The second row should say Tuesday, 7/7/26.
Tuesday?
On page 164, there's a typo. The 163, the dates are listed out correctly. So it's a Monday or a Tuesday that are available. The backward schedule is the same for either of those dates. So we just need to choose a date and a time.
Make a motion to schedule the 2026 semi-annual General Tribal Council meeting on Tuesday, July 7th, 2026 at 6 p.m.
All right, there's a motion by Jonas, seconded by Larry. Is there any further discussion? Not from committee. Community member Nancy Barton, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I want to make sure I got this correct. The 2026 semi-annual meeting is July 7th, which is a Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, the only other comment I want to make is regarding, you know, on here it has packet materials due date. And I did talk at the community meeting about the content of those packets and the expectations by the people who put that material together. There's a booklet, and in that booklet there were pictures of corn, pictures of other things. I'm looking for the programs and the services and the people who are using all of our money, and what are you using it on? And so there were pages, as an example, it was a complete blank page, and then there would be a picture of the direct report in the corner. And to me, that was a waste of time, a waste of money, and I'm looking for, you know, what are you doing with all of our money? And the statistics, the numbers, the what did you do and what are you gonna do? Those are the things that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for pictures of corn. So those are my comments regarding these reports. And I shared them with the CEO. Everything's changing, you know, so it's gonna take a minute. So those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, you know, pictures of people and pictures of, you know, scenery. These are important. This is a semi-annual, annual, and quarterly reports when we get information. And, you know, for people read and keep things. And, you know, maybe they don't read the whole thing all at once, but they keep it and they read it and they reference it and go back. And so, you know, those are the kind of reports that I'm looking for in the semi-annual report. Then the issue came up in a previous meeting here was, well, the template doesn't allow us to put that in there. Well, change the template. And I'm looking for, you know, an accurate, detailed report, because these are the entities that are using all our money. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy, for your comments. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to item B, petitioner Gina Paulus Bonostro, petition number 2025-04, accept the legal review regarding the accountability measure options for the Oneida Business Committee, Boards, Committees, Commissions, petitions number 2025-04.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to item C, petitioner Gina Paulus Bonostro, petition number 2025-05, accept the legal review regarding the amended administrative rulemaking law, petition number 2025-05.
Second.
Motion by Jenny, second by Lisa. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to item 2, accept the fiscal impact statement regarding amended administrative rulemaking law, petition number 2025-05. Motion by Jenny, seconded by Jonas. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. All right, that concludes the open session actions. All that's left is to take executive session actions. Lisa?
Excuse me. I'll make a motion to accept the Intergovernmental Affairs and Self-Governance February 2026 report and to approve a limited waiver of sovereign immunity, Hard Rock Hotel San Diego, file number 20260171 with contract subject to further review by Intergovernmental Affairs Director.
Lisa makes the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Jameson. Discussion? Or no discussion, sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 2, Lisa.
I'll make a motion to accept the Bay Bank Corporation, Inc. FY 2026 first quarter executive report.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jameson. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 3, Lisa.
Accept the Oneida ESC Group LLC FY 2026 first quarter executive report.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Larry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 4, Lisa.
I move to accept the Oneida Golf Enterprise FY 2026 first quarter executive report.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jonas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 5, Lisa.
I move to accept the analyses of tribally chartered entities FY 2026 first quarter executive report.
Support.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jonas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 6, Lisa.
I move to accept the treasurer's January 2026 report.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 7, Lisa.
Motion to accept the Government Administrative Director FY 2026 first quarter report.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jameson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And then, item 8. Lisa.
Motion to accept the Chief Financial Officer February 2026 report.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jameson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. New business, item B1. Lisa.
Motion to accept the discussion regarding the applications for one vacancy on the Oneida Election Board as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 2, Lisa.
Accept the discussion regarding the applications for 7 vacancies on the Oneida Election Board as ad hoc committee as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Larry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 3, Lisa.
Accept the discussion regarding the applications for the vacancies on the Oneida Election Board alternates as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jonas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 4, Lisa.
Accept the discussion on the review of the applications for 3 vacancies on the Oneida ESC Group LLC Board of Managers as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jonas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 5, Lisa.
Accept the discussion regarding the applications for 1 vacancy in the Oneida Land Commission as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 6, Lisa.
Accept the discussion regarding the applications for 3 vacancies on the Oneida Veterans Affairs Committee as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 7, Lisa.
Accept the discussion regarding the applications for the Oneida Arts Board vacancies as information.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 8, Lisa.
I'll approve 66 new enrollments.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny.
I will.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Sorry.
Opposed?
I
Abstentions?
will make a motion to.
Motion carries. Item 8, Lisa.
I'll make a motion to accept the January 6, 2026 Business Committee Officer Session Notes.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 10, Lisa.
Motion to accept the February 4th, 2026 Business Committee Officer Session Notes.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. I believe that concludes our agenda for the day. A motion to adjourn at 10:55 would be in order by Larry, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions?